Okay, Lakeland, Florida, at the Florida Air Museum. They've got a lot of things here on the outside of the building as well as on the inside. This was known as a Sea Dart. Only 5 Convair 52Y Sea Darts made. It's the only seaplane to have exceeded the sound of speed. This thing did not take off from a runway. It took off on water and landed on water. Supersonic seaplane. They didn't, only 5 made it. It was an experiment that didn't do too well. This is a Cirrus before the SR-20 and SR-22 that are built today. There are only 12 of these made. This here is known as the Piper Jet. This was the only one ever made. It was a prototype. They flew it in 2008 and then they canceled the project in 2011 during the Great Recession. They just scrapped the whole deal, the Piper Jet. Hyperbipe. They have one of those inside as well. Anyone know what that is? That is known as the Cosmic Muffin, from a book written by Jimmy Buffett, or a movie. I think what it was, this was a plane that Howard Hughes bought in, I believe, '49, and retrofitted it for executive use, and it had a really fancy interior. I think it was actually designed by Rita Hayward, and it was sold. He invested like $300,000 or $400,000 redoing the plane, and in 1964 it was in Florida. It was damaged in a hurricane on the ground, so it was turned into a boat, and I've actually seen this on TV in the water. It was before it was painted white. I think a guy actually lived on it for a while. That's known as the Cosmic Muffin. F-14 Tomcat. Okay, this contraption is known as the Salmon, built by Lockheed Aircraft in the early 50s to demonstrate the operation of a vertical takeoff and landing fighter for protecting convoys. This was one of only 2 prototypes, and this is the only one that ever flew. So it just takes straight off from the air, or from the pointing it upwards like that, and I guess I'm not sure how it would land. That was before Harriers and whatnot. There's a little better shot of it against the sun. What you just saw was a 727. There's a history on this. It's actually a functioning classroom. It was painted to represent the Florida Pacemaker, which was a Piedmont jet that flew Florida routes all through the 70s and 80s. Not sure if we're supposed to go up in this or not. I'm just going to take a peek. Maybe it is open for the public. Yeah, it's got central heat and air in here. It's a classroom. Cool. This is inside a hangar. They've got some restoration projects going on. There's a little foldable wing plane there. A Volks plane. Yeah, I don't think they're related to Volkswagen, but who knows? Quite honestly, most of the little planes in here don't look safe to me. But that's just me, maybe. Check that up in the air. World's smallest twin-engine airplane. I think I've seen model jets, remote control RC planes that are as big as that. Good grief. This thing here looks like nothing but some twigs and sheets put together with a motor somewhere on it. Would anybody feel safe flying in that? Nah. Up in the rafters, that's a plane kind of disguised up in there too. Alright, we're going to go inside. I'll show you do a quick walk through the inside. Way down there is a DC-3. Actually, it's the C-47, the military version of the DC-3. Also known as the Goonie Bird. Alright, let's go inside. What I'm fixing to show you is an F-16 scale model made out of wood. And that's the finished product. Check that out. This is kind of neat. This is Florida airports, how a lot of them got their start. Miami, Orlando, and so forth. I like Florida history, especially mid-century. There's a Red Baron over there. Some of these early airlines, Florida Airlines. There's Chalks that just went out of business in 2007 from that crash. Here with my dad, it's him checking it out. Military display, Florida Aviation Hall of Fame. My dad knew of a lot of the people that were in there. Wright Flyer replica. I've seen that in Henry Ford Museum. 1946 Culver 5. Okay, 1926 Ford Flivver. I've seen that on Mysteries at the Museum. That was Henry Ford's attempt to mass produce airplanes like he did Model Ts. And there was a maiden voyage of one, or a long distance voyage of one. His test pilot, his favorite test pilot, who he considered almost like a son, was to fly it from Dearborn to Miami, and it never made it. Henry Ford was waiting in Miami for it. The big fanfare, the press, media, and all that were there. And anyway, it crashed, and Henry Ford was so devastated that he just ended the Ford Aviation division after that. Yeah, it was a small airplane, had a short wingspan. It's a good Howard Hughes display here. There's his office desk. And this guy was crazy. If you read all about the way he used to fly, Howard Hughes, he was a great innovator. This is a very interesting wall to read. This is one that he crashed. He crashed several airplanes. Crashed right into Beverly Hills, into a neighborhood, burnt one house down. Actually, after he went all eccentric and everything, he decided in '72 to go flying again. He flew that, and then a few months later he flew a Hawker. So as long as he's been flying and as old as he was, he actually flew that. And then he fell and had a leg injury or something shortly after, and then that was the last time that he flew. And that Cosmic Muffin that was outside there that I showed you that turned into a boat, that was the plane right there. And it tells the history of it. You may want to tap on the screen to pause that and zoom in on it. And along this wall is a Howard Hughes timeline. It's very interesting. NOAA display, the equipment and planes that they used. There's a display of engines, what kind of planes that they powered. There's a Lycoming, which you'd find in normal general aviation airplanes. Pratt & Whitney. Alright, just left the museum there. This is a big complex. There's it's an academy as well. Flight school, which is right over there, Aerospace Academy. So, alright, that is the Aerospace Discovery at Florida Air Museum, Lakeland, Florida. Alrighty then.